the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with LB 898, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chamber. The order of business of the Lincoln City Council is as follows. The clerk will call items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those in opposition. The applicant may make a short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating their name, address, and whether they're speaking in favor of or in opposition to an item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last meeting of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on any issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. Madam Clerk, would you call our first item of business today?
Yes, and just a reminder to the public, due to the Christmas and New Year's Day holidays, the City Council will not meet on Monday, December 24th and Monday, December 31st. We ask those of the general public coming forward to testify to please clearly state your name, spell your name, give your address, and sign in on the sign-in sheet laying on the podium. Testifiers may use either microphone, and there is a sign-in sheet by each microphone. We ask city staff who are testifying to please state your name, title, and the department you work for. Once you have testified and council does not have any questions of you, you may return to your seat. Our first item of business is our public hearing consent agenda, items 1 through 3.
Thank you, and I think the appointees for items 1A and 1B are here. Would you please come forward? Hi, good afternoon. We'll start with Mr. Warner.
Okay, thank you. My name is Terry Werner. That's spelled Terry, W-E-R-N-E-R, 2216 Lake Street, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Mr. Warner, you're being appointed to the Human Rights Commission.
I am, and I just want to simply thank the mayor for his nomination to the committee and ask the council to confirm my appointment.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Mr. Eskridge, Councilman Eskridge.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Warner, I was really interested to read about you and all the different things you've done. You've sold hardware. You've dished up soft serve.
I did.
You've been involved with public service and social work, and there are probably a dozen other things that you've done. Amazing diversity of things that you bring to the table.
Well, thank you. I tell people I've had 20 careers, but at my age, I wished I'd worked for the federal government for 40 years.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Warner? Thank you very much. Also being appointed to the Human Rights Commission is Ms. Afu. Hi, could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Precious Loving Afu. I am currently employed by the state of Nebraska. I'm a juvenile probation officer. I was a graduate of Project All here in Lincoln, and I currently serve on Northeast Family Center Board, and I enjoy serving. I've lived in Lincoln, so any way I can serve this city in any way I can, I jump at the opportunity.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I said Ms. Loving Afu. I mispronounced it. Please forgive me for that. And thank you for your willingness to serve. Are there questions for this appointee? Seeing no one, I say thank you.
Okay.
And we'll be voting on items a little bit later in the agenda. Yes, please sign there, and you're welcome to return to your seat. Madam Clerk, where do we go now?
Anyone else wish to come forward on any item on the consent agenda? If not, we can vote on these items. Items 1A through D were introduced by Christensen.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Christensen and a second by Councilman Eskridge. Discussions? Seeing no one, would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Next then are public hearing liquor resolutions. Those giving testimony are asked to come forward and raise their right hand for the clerk to administer the oath. After the oath, witnesses shall state their names and addresses. I'll call items 4A and B together. They are the application of Pub Bar and Grill for a Class CK liquor license at 4947 Holdridge Street and the related manager application of Michael Schmidt.
Good evening, gentlemen.
How's it going?
Not bad.
Would you raise your right hands? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you. Just state your names and addresses.
My name is Doug Litz, L-I-T-Z, 4900 Southwest 12th Street, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68523.
I'm Michael Schmidt, 900 Lamplighter Lane, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68510.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming forward. Tell us a little bit about your application. What are you planning to do here?
Wow.
We're planning to open up a neighborhood bar and grill in a location on 48th and Holdridge. It's formerly Coop's Corner. We're going to kind of continue somewhat of the same theme and same things that they've done, just kind of clean it up a little bit and give it a little new life, I hope.
I understand. Councilwoman Lamb.
Thank you. So have you purchased that building there? Is it a
Yes.
reopening?
We closed January 2nd
Okay.
on the building, and then the business will hopefully be open January 10th. I don't want to make too many false promises in public for sure.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Other questions for these applicants? Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the chamber that would like to testify on this agenda item? Thank you. Teresa, may we move a little bit?
All right, we'll move on to items 4C and D. They're the application of Craft Axe Throwing for a Class A liquor license at 1821 N Street and the related manager application of Olivia German.
How's it going, guys?
Okay, good evening. Good afternoon. Hello.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you. Just state your name and address.
Yes, my name's Travis Cornelius. That's Cornelius with Craft Axe Throwing on 1821 N Street.
Olivia German, German.
Thank you. Would you tell us a little bit about what your application, why you're here, and what your?
Right.
I'll stop talking.
Well, I
Please
don't know
explain.
if you guys haven't heard, but axe throwing's the next big thing. So that's why we're here, and we want to add liquor to our establishment as well. This will be our third location that we've opened. We have two more on the way. So we're here just to hopefully get the beer sales going as well.
Do you have a statement before we?
Oh, I'm sorry. I will be. I'll be the general.
We're fine.
General manager of this location. So I'm here for the general manager application as well as the liquor license.
Understand. Thank you both. Are there questions from the council? Councilwoman Lamb.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today. This is one of the more interesting applications I've seen for a liquor license. Can you tell me a little bit about your safety guidelines that are posted? Is there also training of those folks that are using the lanes under
Correct.
these?
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. No, perfect.
Correct. Yeah, every participant that comes through our doors will be trained by one of our certified safety coaches. And what that is the projector on?
Yeah, I think, yeah, just go ahead and put it there and it'll come up in just a second. It's 3, 2, 1, bam.
All right. So this will be posted on every lane in our facility, and our axe instructor will go through this list of procedures and safety. I apologize, I'm super nervous around.
Breathe. Trevor, there's a Zoom button on there. Do you see it?
You guys should have it in the packets.
Yeah. This one goes out on television so the public can see it.
That's better.
That's, well, thank you.
So yeah, every participant will go through that safety checklist when they arrive. The axe instructor will teach everyone how to throw an axe in the safest way possible. We don't do any trick shots, no underthrow, no sidearm, anything like that. It's only overhead vertical throwing. And then after that, we do have 3 safety coaches on the floor at all times. So 1 safety coach for every 3 lanes to make sure no one's intoxicated or no one is breaking our rules.
So, so on a shooting range, there's division between each lane. Is that also going to take place on these lanes?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
There are X facilities that have multiple targets in one lane. We decided to do division walls for every single target we have in our facility.
Okay.
As you can see here.
And you might have to zoom out on that one a little bit. Sorry.
That's all right. So that's kind of the basic setup of what our lanes look like. Each division wall comes back 12 foot. Your throwing box is within the range of 12 to 16 feet. So you're a little bit behind that division wall where you throw.
Councilwoman Raybold.
So if you're a spectator watching, how far back must you be, or you're behind a glass wall, or how does that work?
Yeah, you're going to be 4 feet behind, at least 4 feet behind where the thrower is throwing. And most likely it's going to be a wine table or a wine barrel table like structure with seating around that. So.
And could you tell us a little bit more about your alcohol policy? Are you going to limit the number of drinks per any participant who throws an axe? Are you going to check to see if they're inebriated, or how can you tell that they maybe have been at another establishment and they're just coming to yours just to throw an axe, but they've already had more than 2 drinks per
well, we
person?
hope not to limit the amount, but since our facility is only an hour-long session, we aren't trying to be a bar. We're there for the axe throwing facility. We aren't trying to be a bar. We're just tacking on the brews to the experience. How we limit that, or how we apologize. How we make sure that people aren't too intoxicated. We give power to every one of our staff. They can ask that participant to either not participate in the axe throwing or ask them to leave our facility at any time if there's any question on intoxication. And each of our employees also go through all the standard certification processes, as well as TIPS, which is the training for intervention procedures, so that'll give them a little more insight on how to handle those situations if they do occur.
So you do not intend to limit the number of drinks that the participants can consume?
We do not intend to. If that's a requirement of your guys's, we will be happy to follow that. Every other council meeting that we've gone to, no one has asked us to do so, so we hope to keep the same standards for every location that we have.
So do you intend to only serve beer and wine, or do you?
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, just beer.
Just beer?
Beer and cider, yep.
More? Yeah. Councilman Eskridge.
Thank you. So you indicated that you have other locations.
Yes.
Where are your other locations?
Yeah, our first location is in Greenville, South Carolina, and we opened that in March of this year. Our second location is in Springfield, Missouri, which we opened just in September. And then we're building out 3 locations currently, the one here in Lincoln. We're building out in Omaha, which we also got approved for our liquor license there, and then also Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay. And so you've got 2 in existence now that have been operating for several months at least. What have you learned from those operations?
People love it. It's a great time, and everyone seems to have a blast when they come to our facilities. We haven't had any incidents. It is so yeah. It's been a blast watching this thing blow up, I guess. So sorry.
Next metaphor.
Yeah, probably not the right descriptive word. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Other questions, Councilman?
I'm looking at a substitute resolution that has some language from our city law department. Have you seen this?
because it talks about, for example, item 7 on there says, applicant shall prohibit any customer from being in possession of a weapon while intoxicated, and shall prohibit customers from consuming more than 2 drinks before or while in possession of a weapon. Drink limitations should not apply to customers who will not be in possession of a weapon, weapon being the axe. So are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And had you seen this before?
Yeah, I believe my business partner has looked over that. So
Okay.
yes, he said
All right, so that's none of these conditions are a problem for you?
no, they shouldn't be.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Lamb?
Thank you. Is there any kind of a waiver that participants sign? Can you tell me what the waiver is about?
You want to handle that one?
So yes, everybody is required to sign a waiver before participating, and it goes over things like, basically, these are the safety rules. This is what we expect you to understand. We will be giving you safety instructions, and you are expected to follow those instructions. And should you not, then basically we are not liable.
If you get harmed?
Yes.
So it acknowledges kind of receipt of the laws, or acknowledges that the rules that are applied?
Correct.
Okay. And then waives liability in the event they don't follow the instructions, but if they do follow the instructions, then it may still subject the establishment to, if you had things too close or whatever. Thank you.
Other questions from council? Councilwoman Raybold?
In some of the other locations that you operate in, do they have any other restrictions besides, 2 beers per
Right,
person?
Well, Omaha required us to do wristbands, so we're just doing that across all locations, wristbands for minors, and wristbands for anyone 21 or older. The other, and I believe that's the only requirement, besides not being able to hold a beer while you're in the lane. We want the participants to fully focus on throwing an axe and not drinking and throwing at the same time. So that's another restriction we have.
Or no serving.
So this 2 beer limit is a new type of restriction as
It
compared
is.
to the other locations?
It is, yes. So we'll implement that with all our other locations as well, so.
I have a couple questions. Are you finished? I don't want to interrupt. I did get a few emails asking questions, and one of the questions that a resident asked was, children, is there an age limit? And as you stated earlier, it's more about the axe throwing experience, and the alcohol is kind of icing or something after the fact. So most of the things we talked about now have been alcohol related with wristbands. Is there an age limit on
Yeah,
participating?
we do have an age limit. 8 is the youngest that you can be, but you have to be accompanied by a parent or guardian up to the age of 16. So that's our age limit.
And the other thing that Councilwoman Raybold mentioned that made me think about where non-throwers would be sitting. And is there some barrier? You mentioned a wine table or something that would keep me from being an idiot and walking in front of Carl while he's throwing.
Right.
Is there some type of Is it in a separate room, or do I have to go through a velvet rope or something to keep me?
Well, you can think of it as like bowling, as a bowling alley. All the lanes are pointed in one direction, and everyone's sitting behind the lanes. So there's only one thrower at a time. They throw and then they come back and switch off. So
The only other thing I'd like to ask is I heard someone compare this to darts. And when I think of darts, I often think of leagues and people throwing at different days of the week. And is that something that's part of this experience?
yeah, we do have league night that we hope to implement in this location as well.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the council? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to testify on this agenda item?
I would like to know if our law department has anything they'd like to say before we move on to the next applicant.
Thank you. I was thinking the same thing. You're good.
I don't
think I have anything to add. I'm certainly here if you want to ask any questions.
Councilwoman Lamb?
Yeah, I have a question because I think we really didn't address this. One of the things I wasn't clear if they were aware of all the restrictions. I think there was one about a closing. I'm not sure if it was earlier closing time or earlier serving time than other bars in the area that don't do axe throwing.
Sure. When that's why I was just asking him to make sure that he had reviewed this latest version of the resolution, because it is a little bit different than what was previously posted on the council's website. We had talked to the applicant when he came and met with Investigator Hofer about closing at midnight. And I drafted that, but then the more I got to thinking is we don't ever really set a closing time for liquor, because that's statutory and via our ordinance, and so that would be kind of hard to enforce. But keeping the axe throwing to having it end at midnight so that they don't become the last stop after a bar, which is really the point of our conversation that day, is just making sure that they're not the last stop, having to deal with intoxicated parties while they're trying to provide a safe environment. So, so we had talked about that before, and I think he was okay with that. His location is a little bit further than college, college housing, but it's still in the area, and that area is developing more. So I anticipate there will be more liquor establishments in the area. So we just want to make sure he starts out with, and she starts out with a strong policy, and in that way, those rules, as people come back, will they'll be in place. The other thing he didn't really develop or talk about too much is you rent the lane for an hour. And I don't remember what the price was now. It's $20 an hour. So there is a shorter window in which those people will be there for that 2-drink minimum. That's our real concern, is that they don't drink a lot before they start throwing or while they're throwing. And then afterwards or whatever, they can do whatever. But just making sure that it doesn't get too crazy. And 4 feet back would not be safe if I was throwing an axe, probably. So, just saying. So, is there anything else that we talked about that I forgot? Okay. Yeah, both groups have been very willing to have conversations. They understand that it's a new endeavor. It's a little bit different. And like I had talked about, it's just really thinking about what our liquor policies are when we're dealing with dangerous weapons. And I wrote it as weapons in the resolution because we could see the tool change to some other, so I wanted to be all inclusive should they change the tools. So, okay.
Councilman Eskridge has a question.
Okay, just to clarify, so .5 says weapons are prohibited after midnight, so they could continue to operate the bar till 2 a.m. closing time, is that
correct?
Okay, thank you.
And that would be just like any other establishment.
Other questions? Councilwoman Raybould.
And I think you said that after they do their 1 hour of throwing, do they still have that drink consumption limit?
No, before or while in possession of the weapon. So before, if they're waiting for their lane, or while they're using their lane. After they're done and they just want to stay at that location, I wouldn't expect there to be a drink limit. We're just concerned about the time in which they're about ready to throw or throwing an axe. So, and I don't really know. We haven't taken a tour to see how this establishment is set up, if it's really designed for spectators to come and just watch. So if you want to address anything along those lines, you certainly can.
Sure. Yeah, we do have an area around the bar that spectators can sit and watch from there as well. Yeah, right. So there is some open area to our facility, as well as seating for each individual lane for that group. So.
Other questions? I have one, Ms. Peters. So we have spent a lot of time talking about safety and axe throwing, and this is a liquor application. Were there any issues with the application that you'd like to tell us about?
Not with this application, no. They've have a pretty clean track record and have operated other locations, and I did some searching and I didn't find any issues associated. So as long as they fully disclosed everything, we're okay with the application, so.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to testify on this agenda item? Seeing no one come forward, may we move to our next one?
Yes, I'll call items 4E and F together. They're the application of Tomahawks for a Class I liquor license at 815 O Street, Suite 100, and the related manager application of Shad Kearns. Thank you. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
Do.
Thank you.
My name is Shane Kearns, ShaneKearns, representing Tomahawks, 815 O Street, 68506.
Welcome. Mr. Kearns, thank you very much. Tell us a little bit about your application.
We're applying for a Class A liquor license, which would be beer only. We're excited to bring this type of entertainment here to Lincoln. It's just something new, as our competitor said. Like I said, we'll be down in the Haymarket area, so we're very excited for that.
You heard a lot of the questions that we asked. Would you like to address some of them, or do you have some issues?
Our concept is generally the same as craft acts. It's across the nation, these are everywhere, so the general concept's the same. So it'll be very, very similar. So,
yeah. Councilwoman Lamb.
Thank you. Thanks for being here tonight. So I saw that, thank you for this handout. I appreciate that. You have some kind of a breathalyzer analysis capability. Can you explain to us exactly when that might be applied and what it'll consist of?
Yeah, definitely. This is something we want to incorporate personally. We feel like it'll benefit our company. It's just another line of safety. But basically what it is you can see in the brochure, it is a breathalyzer, which is a police grade, so it's very accurate. It links to your cell phone via Bluetooth, so each one of our axe throwing coaches will have one of these on hand. So basically, if there's any area of concern, someone walks in the door and they think they may be intoxicated or they don't know if there's gray area, they could basically just turn this on. You blow in it for about 10 seconds, and then you'll hear a click, and then it'll send that data to the cell phone within a minute. And another benefit of this is it is linked to our POS system, so we'll have that on record and file for our own personal use as well. So,
if someone declines to take the breathalyzer, do you have a policy?
Yeah, it's if we ask someone to take a breathalyzer, it's kind of mandatory, which will be in our waiver. So if if they decline, we'll nicely ask them to leave, and we'll refund them their money. So.
But you won't let them throw it?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Other questions from the council? Councilman Christensen.
Setting aside axe throwing, I've looked at the application, and I have some real concerns about the number of convictions, and the fact also that for one of the applicants, I think it was Shad, that there were 8 undisclosed convictions, and then for you, there were 6 undisclosed convictions. Tell me about that. Why should this council say yes in light of an application that is so clearly flawed?
I understand your concern, and I definitely don't condone any of my past convictions. From a business standpoint, though, we know what's on the line as far as any alcohol-related incidents. We've met with the Liquor Commission, and we know they have a zero-tolerance policy for any issues. We have a lot, invested in this and tied up into it, so from our perspective, we take it very seriously.
And you understand that based on the Liquor Commission's point system, you will be, regardless of what this body does this afternoon, you will be having a hearing at the Liquor Control Commission?
Yes, sir. We do understand that.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions from the council? Thank you very much. Would anyone else in the audience like to testify on this item?
Okay, I would like to move approval of items 4A through 4D.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Christensen, a second by Councilman Eskridge. Discussion? Seeing no one. I'm sorry. We have a motion to amend also?
Oh, that's right. We need to do the motion to amend.
For 4C.
For 4C. This is the substitute or resolution that includes the language with the new proposed rules So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Christensen, a second by Councilman Eskridge on the motion to amend. This would substitute one resolution for the other. Discussion of that? Got a hand up for that? Oh, okay. Seeing no one, would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0 on motion to amend number 1 for 4C.
And now we'll go back to the original substituted motion, which we already have a motion and a
Yes,
second. on,
for
correct?
items A through D.
A through D.
Yes. Any discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
And now we have E and F.
Correct.
I move disapproval of E and F.
Second.
We have a
And-
motion, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
motion by Councilman Christian, second by Councilman Raybold. Discussion.
Okay, and I'd just like to tell the applicant that this is nothing personal, but it sure looks to me like there's an issue there that needs to be resolved, and the correct place for the resolution is at the Nebraska Liquor Commission.
I'm sorry, Councilman Lamb.
Thank you. Could I have Tanya come forward, City Law come forward for a moment? And we didn't really discuss this for this particular application, but we do also have an motion to amend for this, correct?
That's correct. And
Okay.
they are very similar, except that there is the restriction of no liquor violations for the applicant, both individually and for the business for 1 year.
And are they aware of this, the applicants?
I believe so, that restriction, yes. I don't know that they've seen the entire motion to the new resolution. So we can double check that.
So I apologize for not asking that sooner, because that would have been good to know, but so you're saying it's similar to the previous application conditions with the addition of no liquor violations for at least a year?
Correct.
And that's for any of the partners in the establishment?
Yes.
Okay, and what happens if, in fact, there is any conviction for a liquor-related?
We would send it back to the Liquor Commission for a show cause hearing, and depending on what it is, we could look at, they would look potentially at cancellation of their license, so.
I have a question.
Councilman,
Since the motion on the floor is to disapprove or deny, is it required that we attach that amendment?
No.
Thank you.
And did you bring both applicant, the manager, and the main license at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, because the manager is not here today.
Right.
Okay.
so when we
Time to vote.
Yeah. One question, when we vote to deny, it still goes before the Liquor Commission either way, correct?
Yes, it'll go for a show cause hearing, and I do expect this one to have a show cause hearing at the Liquor Commission's request also. So it's not surprising, and we've already talked about that with the applicant, so they're aware.
Okay, we have Councilman
Yeah,
Eskridge.
I noticed originally the request or application was for Class I liquor, but now it's Class A. So
yeah.
just beer.
We had talked to them about our concern of, this location is much closer to existing liquor applications, and we were concerned about intoxicated parties coming there, shots being served, hard liquor and weapons just doesn't seem to be a better mix than just beer. So we talked to them about it. They were willing to change to an A. A is pretty standard for the industry from what I can tell. Some locations might have wine, but it doesn't seem that any of them add the hard liquor into the mix with the weapons. So they willingly changed that. They also reduced their square footage because they had that Sidewalk Cafe originally licensed, and it wouldn't, or in the application, and they wouldn't qualify for that. So they've been cooperated again in our request and participating in conversations. So we appreciate that also.
Councilwoman Lamb has a couple questions for you.
So I'm just wanting to understand, because there's a motion to deny, and if we deny, it goes to Liquor Commission for a show cause hearing anyway. the conditions, though, that you've suggested will not be part of it.
Right.
And so will those be presented to the Liquor Commission so that they can be considered?
We can attend the hearing and ask that if they approve it, that they establish similar conditions as what we've requested for the other applications. I don't expect that they would oppose adding those, but I can't guarantee that they would be the same.
So we currently have a motion to deny. If that passes, the applicant will be denied here, but the Liquor Commission could still provide them with a license?
Could still provide them with a license with or without restrictions. So if you really want your restrictions to go to the commission, you would do a motion to approve with the restrictions, and that way the commission sees those. But if you're not comfortable and you want to do a motion to deny, that is totally acceptable. We, as staff, will present those requests to them and ask that they provide the same restrictions that they do for the other applicant.
Councilman, I'm sorry,
But typically, we require the manager to be present, and certainly in an instance like this, it seems to be really important. Help us think through.
Well, I was
that.
expecting that what you would do is carry over the manager application if you didn't want to do a denial today, if you were considering approval. That way you could talk to him directly next week. So he was going to be available next week, is my understanding. But if you feel that your questions have been answered and you feel that you want to take action on this, you certainly can today. I missed the first part when it was called, so.
That's my fault. I think you had additional questions and I cut you off.
No, I think my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from the council? So we have a motion and a second to deny this application. I think we've had reasonable discussion. Would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
No.
Lamb?
No.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
No.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion lost 2-3.
So do we go back to the original
Now we go
motion
back
now?
to,
Or do we?
if someone wishes to move approval.
I would move approval. First of all, though, we need to have approval of the.
Motion to amend?
Motion to amend. Right.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend and add the substitute resolution for this motion, for this issue. Is there any discussion of the motion to amend? I did not see the language about the 1 year in this. Can someone help me find that? If there's a violation within 1 year?
I don't see it.
No, I don't either.
Did I miss it?
Tanya, I don't see the additional
No,
restriction.
I think when we.
I thought I remember reading that somewhere, but I
I think
didn't.
it was in the first one, but I think when things were cut and pasted in,
It might have gotten.
it might have been deleted. So you could add a number 9, applicant, and manager shall be prohibited from having any business or individual liquor law violations for a period of 1 year.
Will I need a motion to amend since we're adding an extra line to this?
Ooh, that gets further than my,
Yeah, we gotta
probably
move it.
so.
Actually, we're actually amending it on the fly, yes.
So we have to approve the first motion, right?
No, I think
And
we
then
need,
amend the
I think we need to
second?
approve this amendment first.
Yes.
I don't deal with Robert's rules as much as I
Yeah.
used to.
Chris Connolly, Chief Assistant City Attorney.
Thank you,
have a
Mr.
motion
Connolly.
pending, motion to amend that's pending. and
Yes.
You want to amend that further, correct?
Correct.
So you need to do a motion to amend the amendment.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Lamb, second by Councilwoman Raybold to amend the amendment.
Before we go too far, you can do longer than 1 year. Our standard is 1 year, but the Nebraska Liquor Commission has done restrictions longer.
And they
3,
still
5,
could,
or
right?
lifetime. They still could.
And they could also deny if they feel
Could
uncomfortable.
deny too. And if there's anything else that you want to put in here, on your approval, we can certainly do that to you. So this is your resolution.
And while we're amending, I know this is a little bit out of place. We talked about holding over the manager application.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not voting on that one right now.
Okay, good. Thank you. So we have a motion to amend the amendment.
To add a number 9 that says the applicant and the manager shall be prohibited from having any future liquor violations for 1 year.
And we're good with 1 year? Everyone's okay with that? Okay. So with any additional discussion, I will ask. Seeing none, would you call the roll on the motion to amend the amendment?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0.
And now the original amendment, which is a substitution amendment for the original resolution.
And there's still going to be a vote after this.
Yes.
Yes.
As amended. So
As
Yes.
amended, yeah.
the amendment as amended.
Like she said. Any additional discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Now we have a newly amended resolution we need to vote on.
Yes, final vote.
Is there any additional discussion? I think we do have a motion and second already on the floor. Additional,
We have a motion and a second?
We already had one.
Okay, thank you. So I do have some discussion.
yes, please, Councilwoman Lamb.
So I do share the concern about the omitting a disclosure of certain things and items and convictions, and I think that that's really important that folks be very forthcoming. That said, this particular application, we've already been told that it's going to go for a show cause hearing anyway, just because of those convictions. And so I'm supportive of passing it at this point, and I realize that the Liquor Commission can also add additional time to the 1 year.
Councilman Christensen.
Well, I understand Councilwoman Lamb's position and generally would take that position. But I think the concerns here are significant. And if we send this to the Liquor Control Commission with a yes vote, that tells the Liquor Commission that we approve of this, and I do not. So I'm going to vote no.
Other comments? Seeing no other comments, I think we're ready for the roll call.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
No.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
No.
Motion carried, 3-2.
Point of order? Need 4 votes to pass anything on the city council.
Correct.
So this will be carried over next week.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you.
I will make sure to notify the applicant.
So that was the,
And I'll make sure it reads Class A on the agenda. All right,
So-
that concludes our,
I think
Wait,
we have
yeah.
one more.
I think we,
4F.
Yeah.
The manager.
Deal 4F.
Yeah.
for,
I would move that we continue 4F till next week for hearing so that the manager can appear.
Second.
we have a motion by Councilwoman Lamb, a second by Councilman Christensen. Discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0.
So we'll see these two next week. Thank you very much. And that concludes the votes on liquor.
Yes.
And let's go to the public hearing resolutions.
All right. I'll call item 5A, assessing the costs incurred for cutting, clearing, and removing weeds against the various benefited properties for the period of January 1, 2018 through December 31, 2018.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. Brent Meyer with Lancaster County Weed Control. I'm the superintendent for that department, and for the last 22 years, we have provided, through an interlocal agreement, the weed abatement program for the City of Lincoln. The item before you today is just assessing the unpaid enforcements that we've done throughout this current year as liens against the property. So I would ask the City Council to approve those, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Eskridge.
Just a comment. Sometimes it's ironic how things fall together, but throwing axes and cutting weeds just seems to be
We ought to work
kind
together.
of a natural, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a little bit of a weird question. We had something come before our City Council a few weeks ago where a gentleman had a health violation, and the health department had to do some remediation of contamination of soil, and they placed a lien on his property. Is this a similar procedure? He had hoped to make payments, but we later found out that there are no installment payments on this. You have to pay it off with a lien. Does this work the same?
Yeah, so these will be assessed as a lien against the property, and I'm not familiar with the health one. So what happens here is these are assessed, if you approve that today, as a lien against the property as a special assessment. And then those are collected through the county treasurer's office in the same manner as the property taxes with 14%.
After it's past due?
Yes, if a 14% annual percentage rate, as long as it's not paid. So 50 days after this hearing is when the interest payment time would start. So they've got another 50 days to pay the actual lien before interest starts accruing.
Thank you. Councilwoman Lamb.
Yeah, thank you. So I noticed on the list that we received that there were a couple of addresses scratched off. And so I'm just wanting to clarify for anyone that may be listening, that means that they've received notice, and that since that notice was received, they've paid that
correct
assessment.
Correct. So through the ordinance, we have to notify everybody. We notify them when the enforcement is done, and then we notify them again 30 days prior to this hearing. So any of those that are lined out on your attachment are the ones that have been paid since that second notice was sent. And those will not be moved forward as a lien against the property.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions for this testifier? Thank you very much. This is part of our public hearing. Is anyone in the chamber that would like to speak on this item? Seeing no one coming forward, Teresa, can we move to 5B?
Yes, use permit 10,001A, application of Brian McPike to allow a waiver to the front yard setback requirement for a freestanding sign to be set back a minimum of 15 feet instead of the required 25 feet from the front property line on property generally located at 1040 North Cotner Boulevard.
Brian McPike, BRIANMCPIKE, with compensation programs, 1040 North Cotner. We are a health insurance agency. We're just requesting to put a sign in. We've been at the resident's office 7.5 years. We've had people across the street since we're in we're in RT. They've walked into their house and go, "Where's our appointment at?" And they go, "Over there." So we're just trying to make it so it's easier for people to find our business. We have numbers on our building. They can't see them.
Yeah.
They don't look.
Councilwoman Lamb.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about the sign?
Sign is a 3 foot by 4 foot boulder sign. Goes very aesthetically with the area. We're even trying to blend the color in with the building.
So it's actually engraved on the boulder?
Yes.
Thank you. I think that looks really nice in the landscape.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Other questions for this testifier? Seeing no one, thank you very much, Mr. McPike.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing no one, I think we're ready to vote.
All right, we can vote on these items. Item 5A was introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Christensen, and a second by Councilman Eskridge. Any additional discussion of 5A? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Item 5B was introduced by Christensen.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Christensen, second by Councilman Eskridge. Discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Next then are our public hearing ordinances second reading and related resolutions. Item 6A is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classification is assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter W by creating the classification of Information Security Officer.
Good afternoon, Council. Doug McDaniel, Human Resources. This ordinance creates a new classification for Information Security Officer that is needed in our Information Services Department. Will be specific to the security aspects of our computer systems throughout the city. While that is being done currently with other positions Obviously, this discipline has risen to have a dedicated personnel. It is in the budget, and we have assigned it a W-2 pay range within our W unrepresented categories. I'll be happy to answer any questions I might.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Councilwoman Lamb.
So, for the record, my information services are a little too secure. I have trouble getting into my email, but maybe someone can help me with that.
I'll be happy to have, someone call you.
Thank you.
Other questions from the council? Seeing no one, Mr. McDaniels, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to testify on this agenda item?
Hello, my name is Robert Way, R-O-B-E-R-T-W-A-Y. I live at 801 Elevado Avenue, Lincoln, Nebraska. I would just rise in support of the designation and the position. I think it's an excellent idea in our modern environment, and I'm glad we're doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Way. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing no one, may we move to 6B?
Yes, this is amending the capital improvement program to increase appropriations for energy loan and LES energy rebate revenues and to transfer remaining unencumbered appropriations and cash between certain capital improvement projects involving the Parks Keno funds, Library General Fund CIP, and Library Keno funds. If there's anyone here wishing to speak on this item, they may do so. We do intend to continue the public hearing to December 17th, though.
Yes. Would you like to, please, do you want to?
I was going to say, there's no staff presentation prepared for today, but that'll be
That's
for next
helpful to
week
me.
to go along with all the other items.
And we want to have action next week as well? Is that right?
Public hearing and action?
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Okay. Can we move that right now?
Sure can.
I move that we hold this item over for continued public testimony and action.
I was going to say, can I ask if anybody in the audience wants to
They can still
testify?
testify after we
okay. So we got a motion, and I'm waiting for a second, all right?
Second.
Motion and second that we continue this till next week with continued public hearing and action. Discussion of that motion? Hearing no discussion, would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0.
We are still in a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on item 6B on our agenda, please feel free to come forward and speak now. And I feel better that we said that. Next item.
All right, next is item 6C, change of zone 08041B, application of Franklin Hargett for a change from AGR agricultural to R3 planned unit development to expand the existing PUD by approximately 16.63 acres to allow single-family residential and up to 12,500 square feet of commercial floor area with adjustments to the sign regulations and parking requirements on property generally located at 6501 Pine Lake Road.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Mark Hunziker, appearing on behalf of Franklin Hargett. This is an expansion of an existing PUD that's along the south side of Pine Lake Road, next to the fire station, to the new fire station. It actually shares an access with the new fire station. We're going to keep the house in the existing location. Probably will change the use of the house eventually, and maybe sooner rather than later, to an office for the business. But we want to maintain the existence of that house. I think everybody recognized after the improvements being made to Pine Lake Road and the extensive amount of floodplain that's in that area, that this area could not really realistically be redeveloped into residential uses. And so we've got a building that's been built out there under the existing ag zoning, which will then be converted to commercial use. And we've worked out everything with the staff. All the amendments that were made at the Planning Commission were by agreement of the staff. And so if you have any questions, I'd try to answer them.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Hunziker?
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming forward. Would anyone in the chamber like to speak on this agenda item? Seeing no one, let's move to our next agenda item.
All right, I'll call items 6D and E together. They are annexation 18005, annexing approximately 9.97 acres of property generally located at South 91st and Van Dorn Street, and approval of a conditional annexation and zoning agreement with Patrick McFarland and Sarah Hunt McFarland for the development and annexation of property at South 91st and Van Dorn.
Is there someone to, oh, there we are, sorry.
Good evening, Chair and honorable council members. My name is Sarah McFarland, S-A-R-A-H, M-C-F-A-R-L-A-N-D, and I'm here with my engineer to offer support for the resolutions with agenda items 6C through 6I in relation to the location, or to the property located at 91st Street and Van Dorn Street. I'm I am the developer for that particular area.
Ms. McFarland, welcome. Thank you for coming forward. I think we're just going to deal with 6D and E at the moment. We'll get to the other ones just a little bit, but thank you. Are there questions for Ms. McFarland? Would you, or your engineer, like to tell us a little bit more about what we're going to do here?
My name is Tim Gergen with the Clark Anderson Partners.
Hi, welcome.
So Sarah's property is a 10-acre parcel in the middle of the Matadol development that you'll be hearing on from the next project in the agenda.
Thank you.
And so we have been working closely with the two developments to have a cohesive development go forward together on this. And
so right now we're just annexing some property, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Are there questions from the council? Well, thank you. I think we'll probably get into a little bit more of this in just a moment. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to testify on this agenda item? Seeing no one come forward, let's move to our next.
All right, I'll call items 6F through I. Annexation 18007, annexing approximately 46.37 acres, generally located north of Van Dorn between South 88th and South 98th. Change of zone 17030A, application of Matadol and Patrick McFarland and Sarah Hunt McFarland for a change from AG agricultural to R3 residential PUD to expand the Wandering Creek PUD to add additional residential area, and approving waivers to extend block length, lot layout requirements, and design standards for public cul-de-sac design throughout the PUD, located on approximately 134.42 acres, generally located north of Van Dorn between South 88th to South 98th. Approving amendment number 2 to the annexation agreement for Van Dorn Street Coalition between the city and the parcel owners to reflect changes in the development plans for property located at 91st and Van Dorn, and approving the Van Dorn Street roundabouts and sidewalk agreement between the city, Matadol LLC, and Lincoln Federal Savings Bank of Nebraska for the construction of roundabouts and sidewalks on Van Dorn Street from South 86th to South 91st.
That's a lot.
Good afternoon. My name's Kent Seacrest, representing Matadol LLC, who is the developer of Wandering Creek. With me today are the engineer team of Mark Palmer and Brad Marshall from Olson's, and they're here to answer any questions that you might have. This really is 6 items. The first 2 you just heard about, which are on the McFarland's 10 acres, and then there's the balance piece that's on the Matadol piece, and as Sarah McFarland and Tim indicated, we're coordinating our developments back and forth. Here's just an image, kind of a big picture image of the master plan for the area, if that comes up.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! And we're just north of Firethorn. We're north of Van Dorn. This is 98th Street's over on the right side of the map, and Van Dorn's at the bottom. And this is showing the proposed master plan. In front of you also today is a plan unit development expansion. This was in front of you earlier, if you might have recalled the spring, with several neighbors talking about roundabouts on Van Dorn Street. This is just an expansion. We're now showing the rest, including the McFarland piece, so that we get our streets and grades and everything to line up along the way. And the PUD is rather extensive in size, 134 acres in size, coordinating back and forth. And it's basically an R3 PUD, but it has different components of R5 density for the apartments over here in this area, as well as allowing up to 595 multifamily. As part of that complex, we're showing some 10,000 square feet of commercial along with lots of new housing, single-family housing and townhomes that go into this area as well. So the PUD is definitely fostering a mixed use of residential transition, commercial, as well as multifamily as we go forward. In addition, we are also, besides McFarland's annexing some land, we're also annexing some land as part of this package. We are also amending our original annexation agreement. We brought last year a master plan annexation agreement showing how to develop the whole area. And we're just trying to fine tune that. 88th Street, which is here, is surrounded by two roundabouts on 86th Street and 91st. We really worked hard. I mean, I got to thank staff. We had lots of meetings trying to figure out if we could get 3 roundabouts done, but the money just wasn't there on both the public and the private sector side. So we will be doing 2 roundabouts along with traditional intersection there on the 88th Street location. And so that annexation agreement talks about the 2 roundabouts as well as the traditional intersection in between. We also are proposing 3 stormwater improvements along Van Dorn because Van Dorn's floods. And so I think these will allow us to stay a 50-year flood or better and stay dry, which will be a big improvement for the community. So besides the 2 roundabouts, we also talk in this annexation agreement about the famous sanitary sewer line coming down Stevens Creek, the $12 million line. And that agreement now, we're more clear, we're target dating completion of that sewer to our site of July 15th of this year. So that they're under construction with the big line as we literally speak, and Public Works has done a good job of managing that project for everybody. This also talks about, in the event we don't quite get the sewer there, but we expect to, we have some temporary ability to pump sewage so that it doesn't stop our ability to get new homes and apartments up and running to make the sewage flow and be safely collected and treated at Teresa Street or wherever. We also then talk about trail easement coordination and easement right-of-way and right-of-way for all the infrastructure to be sure that we can get it all assembled on time, and so far everything, I believe, is on time, so we're very pleased. And the 4th document is coordinating those 2 roundabout constructions. We got to time all this so that we can get our neighbors to get in and out of their neighborhood. And that's very important to Public Works as well as ourselves. So this 3rd agreement is a 3-way agreement between Matadol, the city, and Lincoln Federal Savings. They're helping fund this roundabout. Matadol's helping fund this roundabout. City's paying about $200,000 each directly out of their CIP. The other 2 developers are going to fund to the city $800,000 each that will then hopefully be paid when impact fees show up from our developments to repay ourselves to get those infrastructure items completed on time. And the roundabouts are supposed to start next spring of 2019. So lots going on in this neighborhood. And with that, we'd be glad to answer any of your questions.
Questions from the council? Councilman Eskridge.
Yes. might be an engineer's question or maybe even a Donna Garden question, questioning about the Stevens Creek work and when that will be done and what that means for it to be done in terms of servicing the development that's proposed.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Excuse me, I'm Donna Garden, Assistant Director of Public Works and Utilities. The Stevens Creek trunk main that we're putting in is under construction. We are somewhere between about 45% there, I believe, at this point. We expect fully to be complete by the date that Kent mentioned earlier. So that's coming along fine. We have 2 contractors now working on that, and they'll meet in the middle, and hopefully it'll join up just fine.
Okay. So when that work is complete, and I believe Mr. Seacrest said middle of July, then it's ready to go, so to speak. Okay.
Well, she's building 2 big sections with 2 contractors coming together. The city is also building a 3rd section through our piece of land, so that allows our dwelling units to connect. So hopefully all 3 segments will line up and connect about the same July period of time, so toilets can flush.
The golden spike, okay.
Yeah, the golden spike.
Exactly.
Other questions from council? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anyone else in the audience like to speak on this agenda item? Engineers, developers, residents? Okay. So we have 2 more in this section, 2 more items?
Items C, 6J and 6K. They're annexation 18006, annexing approximately 25.69 acres of property generally located at South 70th and Yankee Hill Road, and change of zone 04075H as in Henry. Application of Village Meadows for a change from AG Agricultural to R3 Residential PUD to expand the existing PUD by approximately 25.69 acres on property generally located at South 70th and Yankee Hill Road.
Thank you. Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Council. My name is Mark Palmer with Olson. I'm representing the developers. This is an expansion of an existing PUD per the conceptual plans and everything that's been worked on for a number of years on this area, the Village Meadows PUD. We agreed to the terms of conditions at Planning Commission, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Questions from the council? No one. Anyone in the audience like to testify on this item? Mr. Palmer, thank you. I think we're good to go. And that brings us to...
That would conclude our public hearing, so we can move into the voting session.
Yes, let's do that.
Item 7A, approval of the City of Lincoln Emerald Ash Borer Response and Recovery Plan, introduced by Camp.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Christensen, second by Councilwoman Raybold. Discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0. Item 7B is amending Chapter 12.20 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to trees by amending Section 12.20.040, application for permit to include that treatment of street trees with pesticide are subject to issuance of a permit, and repealing Section 12.20.040 of the Lincoln Municipal Code as hitherto existing, introduced by Camp.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Christensen, second by Councilwoman Lamb. Discussion? Councilwoman Lamb.
Thank you. Just for the public's knowledge, as we vote on this, these permits that'll be required are a no-cost permit, but allow us to actually keep track of what streets, ash trees are being treated throughout the city, and I think that's really important for us to be able to keep track of in light of the Emerald Ash Borer, so support this.
Thank you. Other comments or discussion of this motion? Seeing no one, would you call the roll, please?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0. Next then is 7C. Amending the Lincoln Municipal Code to redesignate the Public Works and Utilities Department as the Transportation and Utilities Department and the Public Works Director as the Transportation and Utilities Director, introduced by Camp.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Christensen, second by Eskridge, and we also have a motion to amend.
Yes.
We deal with that now.
So let's address the motion to amend.
If someone would move it.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Christensen, second by Councilman Eskridge on the motion to amend. And
Great.
any discussion? Councilwoman Lamb.
If he would just read the motion to amend, appreciate
I
it.
hereby move to amend Bill number 18-111 as follows. Number 1, on page 46, strike 53, strike lines 20 through 22, just omitting some lines.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Any additional discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, would you call the roll on our motion to amend?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0.
And now shall we vote on the amended resolution?
Ordinance.
Ordinance, sorry.
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Thank you.
Our resolutions on first reading are items 8A through J. Our ordinances on first reading are 9A and B. Pending list date certain, item 10A will come off to have action next week. Pending list are items 11A through D. Anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not planned to appear on a future agenda may do so at this time, since it is an open microphone session.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robert Way. It's been read into the record. Members of the council, I come before you to oppose the proposed increase in the mayoral salary. I oppose this proposal for 3 reasons. First, it violates the basic principles of economics. The mayor's office will be vacant next year, and 5 people have already declared that they will seek the office. The seekers already include some well-qualified people. This job is attracting exciting applicants months before the filing deadline, and the law of supply and demand and Nebraska horse sense indicate it must be a good job because people want it. Second, I've reviewed the history of every elected mayor since 1991, and the past and current salaries do not impose any hardship on any of these former mayors. They all seem to be doing all right. One of these mayors was governor and then Secretary of Agriculture of the United States of America. I do not see any pattern of hardship arising from this position. Third, the budget has been set. The body has debated and compromised to reach the biennial budget. Sometimes, this is an amendment to my statement, we get something like the security thing, where it's a new thing and we have to adjust the budget. But the council already talked about the mayor's budget when it went before this budget. This is not a new situation. This was something that was already considered before the council. I am guessing here, but I think many employees probably wanted a wage increase, and each of them knew that had to fit into the city budget. What sort of message would it send that all other employees' wages are set when you figure out the budget and the boss gets special treatment? It would be unfair and bad for morale. To review, the proposed mayoral increase is unnecessary. People want the job at the current wage. Unwarranted. Past mayors are not suffering. And unfair. Everyone else's compensation package had to fit into the budget. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Way. Yes, please.
Hello, my name is April Jorgensen, and I'm here to ask the City Council to take steps on a safe storage ordinance. Ideally, a safe storage ordinance would be crafted drawing from advice from experts such as mental health professionals, child advocates, researchers, educators, law enforcement, and students. The city should consider forming a working group to investigate what would be the best ordinance to protect our community from irresponsibly stored guns. I'd also like to share a news story with you that highlights many of the things we're trying to protect people from when it comes to unsecured guns. Just 2 weeks ago, the search found several stories of children ages 4 to 15 who got a hold of guns. It's not always about children, but this one really struck me. There were several teenagers in a home in Ohio, and a 15-year-old boy had a handgun and was showing it around. He accidentally shot a 14-year-old boy in the head, and then the 15-year-old with the gun panicked and turned the gun on himself, and he died. The 14-year-old who was shot initially did not die, but the teenager with the gun didn't know that and panicked. I think this is a really great example of that deadly mix of children, suicides, accidents, and unsecured weapons, because a child cannot legally have a gun, so every gun in the hands of a child is the result of an adult who did not lock that up. And while that seems like common sense, it is frequently not occurring, and I urge you to move forward to protect citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jorgensen. Is there anyone else in the chamber that would like to you take advantage of the public comment portion and speak to the City Council?
Mr. Chair, seeing none, I move adjournment.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Christensen, second by Councilman Eskridge. Would you call the roll on adjournment?
Eskridge?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Christensen?
Yes.
Motion carried, 5-0.
We are adjourned.